Good evening, everyone who is joining us on Facebook and abc10.com, and also for all of those of you on YouTube. It is election night. We welcome you to our election night coverage. I'm Liz Kreutz.
And I'm Madison Wade. The polls have officially closed right here in California, meaning very soon we're going to know who's going to move on to the ballots in the November election for many key races in our state. We're also going to know the projected winners of several races in our county as well in Sacramento.
So we want to start our show with you. We're here from 8 to 9 p.m. We want to hear from you throughout this show. So if you have any questions or concerns about the ballots or the races or the results, feel free to chime in the comment section. We'll hopefully get to all of you throughout the night.
And we also have several reporters who are live in Sacramento County covering several watch parties as well, Democratic and Republicans. We're going to be checking in with them throughout this show to get the latest from them in terms of the races that they're covering tonight.
Yeah, and there's so many races. I mean, we have the governor race that we're looking at. I know a lot of people think Gavin Newsom might win, but we're looking at who that next top spot will go to. He'll run against in November. We're looking at the 4th and 10th congressional district here in our areas that are getting really competitive. Democrats are hoping to flip those blue. So we're going to really dig into all of those tonight.
We do have a lot planned for our show, and in Sacramento County, many voters have their eyes on the district attorney race as well as the sheriff race. Will the current DA and the current sheriff continue on?
I'm ready for it. Are you?
Big question.
Yes.
We have lots to get to, so
let's do it. All right, so this was just sort of our introduction to all of you. Hey guys, I think we're going to go over to our handheld camera now. We're going to join us at our desk. I want to introduce you to our guest that we have with us. I think I got to turn my volume down on my computer. But we got Carol Moon Goldberg with us tonight from the California League of Women Voters. Did I say that right?
We usually call it League of Women Voters of California.
League of Women Voters of California. Thank you for correcting me there. Thanks for being with us, Carol. And we do want to point out that the League of Women Voters is a bipartisan organization. They don't take sides. They don't endorse candidates. So you're really a down-the-middle, neutral voice for us tonight.
We are a nonpartisan organization, which means we do not support or oppose political candidates or political parties. Nonpartisan, not bipartisan.
Bipartisan. I said that. Yes. All right. So I'm distracted by whatever is playing on my computer.
Yeah.
All right.
It's fine.
Thank you,
Carol.
Carol.
This is Facebook Live. It's fluid. So bear with us with some technical difficulties as on our end as well.
All right, so I think that we don't have any results yet tonight because the polls just closed at 8 p.m. And so as they come in, we will make sure to bring them to you live as we get them. But I think we first just wanted to start by asking Carol, there's been a lot of new voting procedures this year in California, specifically in Sacramento County is one of 5 that has these new voting procedures. How has that gone so far?
Well, I guess we'll find out for sure a little bit later, but I can tell you that Sacramento County, also Nevada County, San Mateo County, Napa County, and one more that I'm missing.
Madera.
Madera, there you go. They have been reaching out to the public and doing the best they can to educate everyone on what the new procedures are. I know in Sacramento County, as a registered voter there, I got 3 postcards telling me what's going to happen and how it's going to happen. When I got my vote-by-mail ballot in the mail, inside of that envelope was a whole list of what I can do with the ballot and how many places I can take it to, and a map and a list of all the vote centers and all the drop boxes. And so they're doing the best they can, I think, to explain to people just what's happening and why. And they're hoping that people will respond.
I mean, I think I saw something online, 1.4 million voters had already voted as of last week. It was something I had read from all the mail-in ballots. Do you think that we're ultimately going to be seeing more people voting?
I think that is the hope, but the proof's in the pudding. But when you realize in most past elections, 50% or more of the votes cast have been vote-by-mail ballots anyway, so people are doing it anyway. The question is, will they do it even though they haven't made the decision personally to do it?
Right.
But the idea is that it will be easier and fits in better with their lifestyle to have these various options.
Absolutely. I mean, for me, you know, specifically just my own personal story, I was on the way to the gym and it was like, where's the nearest voting center for me?
Exactly.
You know, I dropped it off. I did not mail it in. And so it looks like more people are actually mailing it in than dropping it off like I did. And that's why maybe we'll see some more votes come in later this week instead or ahead of the game. So
in the past, traditionally, people still like to drop their ballot in a box. And so they do what I've done for years now. I fill it out. I sign my name on the outside of the envelope, that bright pink envelope, and then I take it to a polling place and I drop it, or I take it to the registrar's office and I drop it, because I just like, it's not like paying a bill. I want to, you know, have some impact by putting it in that box and doing something of my civic duty.
Right.
So I think a lot of people will want to do that and will end up doing that.
And I think there's been some reports down in Southern California of a few ballot issues, but ultimately it seems like things are going smoothly. But I think we do want to move on now to the governor's race, chat about that. First, a lot of people might be hearing as we talk about the governor race, because there's a big part of that California is this top 2 primary system. And all day today, I keep seeing people saying that California is a jungle primary. What exactly does a jungle primary mean?
I don't think that's a technical term.
Okay.
I think that it's very descriptive, and it gives you the fights and the claws. But really, what it's called is an open primary system, and that means that people who are not registered as a member of a particular party can vote for anybody in any party on that ballot. In a closed primary, if you're registered as, say, a Green Party member, you would get a ballot with only Green Party candidates on it. And if there were no Green Party candidates running for certain races, you didn't have a voice in who was going to be the ultimate candidate who would show up on the November ballot. So an open primary allows complete choice on absolutely everything and everybody.
So that brings us right to our governor race, and we have a little bit of a breakdown throughout the show. We're going to show you some of our produced packages that we've done and we've been airing, and we want to first break down the governor race for you. There's a lot of candidates on the ballot. I saw one in this packet I have. One guy said, "Why are you voting?" And it said, "Why not?" And you're like, "Great, glad you're running." But there are 6 main candidates: 2 Republicans, 4 Democrats. It is a race right now for who's going to kind of get that number 2 spot. But let's take a look and break down those candidates.
The top 6 candidates for California governor based on polling. Split them into parties and it looks like this: 4 Democrats, 2 Republicans. How about by gender? Well, we got 5 men, 1 woman. Delane Easton, a Democrat. So just who are these gubernatorial hopefuls? Here's some cliff notes. First up, Assemblyman Travis Allen. Allen is a Republican and Trump supporter from Huntington Beach. He's 44 and has been a state senator since 2012. He's also a finance guy. He worked for a large investment firm before opening his own financial planning company. Next, State Treasurer John Chung, a Democrat. He's 55 from Torrance and has served as the state treasurer since 2015. Prior to that, he served as California State Controller and on the California Board of Equalization. Then there's John Cox.
Let's make California great again.
The other Republican. He's a 62-year-old businessman from Rancho Santa Fe near San Diego. He's also an accountant and former attorney who owns thousands of apartment units, mostly in Indiana. He's previously run unsuccessfully for U.S. president and for Barack Obama's Senate seat in Illinois. Next, Delane Easton, the 70-year-old Democrat from Davis who was once a councilwoman in the East Bay and the superintendent for public instruction in the state. While she has spent recent years largely out of the spotlight, she has enthusiastic backing of many progressive Bernie Sanders supporters. Now, all right, here's the one you probably know: Lieutenant Governor Gavin Newsom. He's 50, a Democrat from Marin County, and yeah, the current frontrunner. Now, before serving as Governor Brown's number 2, he was the mayor and district supervisor of San Francisco. And lastly, we've got former Los Angeles Mayor Antonio Villaraigosa.
We need more than talk and tweets. We need action.
He's 65, a Democrat, and was once a Speaker of the State Assembly and union organizer. Since being mayor of LA, he has worked as a public policy advisor for companies like Herbalife and KD's.
All right, so there you have it, those 6 candidates. And I think right now it's sort of believed that Gavin Newsom, our lieutenant governor, will get that top spot, but that there is sort of, because of this top 2 system right now, it's that race for number 2. Yep. Most people are kind of, we'll see tonight, will it be likely Antonia Villaraigosa, the Democrat former mayor from LA, or will it be Republican John Cox, who was endorsed by President Trump? And, I know Republicans are nervous of getting locked out of the primary, and it would be a Democrat on Democrat race, so I know they're hoping to get that second spot.
Absolutely. Lots of people are watching that race right now. I think that's kind of the main contender for Californians, no matter where you live in this state, not country. State, rather. But we do have a question from Facebook from Marisol Cifuentes, who says, when do you think we are going to see results? Those results, I believe, will come in at the latter hour, a part of this hour for our show, but we're going to see probably results later too.
What we will see by the end of the night are preliminary results, and some of the counties are able to count their ballots more quickly than others, and so we won't have a final count probably until after Friday, because the vote by mail people that we've been talking about, if they mail their ballot today, and it's postmarked today, so long as that ballot ends up in the registrar's office by Friday, it will be counted. So there are still ballots that are coming in that in the next 2 or 3 days. So the actual final certified won't be until later. But if you know, depending on the margins between the candidates, you may have a better idea.
And we should get some projections perhaps tonight.
You'll get projections.
Yeah.
You will get some preliminary reports.
Okay.
A lot of counties will, you know, put up a running tab on their websites, and you can find it there.
Our hope is that at some point throughout the show we have some results or expected results to give you.
Yes, that would be nice. That's the plan, at least. But if things do come in later, we also have our late news tonight at 11. So we'll go over results or projections as those come in as well. So.
Do we want to talk about the SAC DA race now?
Yeah.
I think that's the other big one. I know you've been sort of following it a little bit. Sacramento County DA is interesting because you wouldn't always expect that a county DA race would get so much attention.
Right.
But this year it's gotten national attention. Even George Soros, the billionaire, donated like $400,000 into this campaign. So it's gotten a lot of attention. It's just a race between current District Attorney Anne-Marie Schubert and Noah Phillips. We have a breakdown of that. I think we'll just show you that right now. There are only two candidates running for Sacramento County District Attorney. Current District Attorney Anne-Marie Schubert and Deputy District Attorney Noah Phillips, who, is running against his boss. You're probably seeing signs for them around the county. It's hard not to. This has become quite the contentious race. Here are the basics. Schubert, as we know, is the incumbent District Attorney elected in 2014. She has faced heavy criticism for her failure to prosecute two Sacramento police officers who shot and killed Joseph Mann in 2016, and for accepting money from a police union days after the deadly shooting of Stephon Clark. Since that shooting, Black Lives Matter has consistently protested outside her office. She even put up this large fence. And Sacramento City Councilman Alan Warren has pulled his previously announced endorsement. But Schubert has also had recent success with the high-profile capturing of the East Area rapist. Now let's talk about Phillips. Phillips joined the DA's office almost 20 years ago. He's cast himself as a progressive, pledging to fight racial inequality and calling for police reform in the wake of the Stephon Clark shooting. But despite this image, Phillips has recently faced scrutiny over a racist and sexist email found on his work account during an internal investigation into claims Phillips engaged in prosecutorial misconduct during a recent murder trial. Phillips denies that and says the email was sent to him by an older relative. He's apologized for it and said he's embarrassed by his response. Even so, Phillips has retained the support of high-profile Democrats, including California Senator Kamala Harris, activist Sean King, and billionaire George Soros, who has pumped $400,000 into his campaign. That brings us to money. There's a lot of it in this race. We're talking roughly $2 million. In just, though, Phillips says Schubert's acceptance of money from law enforcement agencies will influence how she prosecutes police officers. Schubert says Phillips taken from Soros is an outsider meddling in local affairs. Both, of course, say the other is wrong and stand by their actions.
So definitely a contended race, lots of money poured into this.
Yeah.
You were talking about that $2 million combined in both campaigns.
Yes, and of course the backdrop has sort of been the Stephon Clark shooting to a lot of this.
Absolutely, and also the East Area rapist case too.
Exactly.
So there's been two national headline stories coming out of Sacramento County since she has been campaigning.
Exactly, it's been interesting.
Yep, and so we're going to actually head out to Frances Wang, who is live right now for us at the Schubert Watch Party in Sacramento. So Frances, what is going on where you are? Just kind of talk to us about what you're seeing and who's there.
Hey Madison, hey Liz. Yeah, the watch party started about 45 minutes ago. It's a private watch party. They invited up to 200 guests. It is a secret location, but you might be able to tell where I am just by looking at the background. Now I want you to take a look at just kind of the scene here. We have the food set up. There are TV screens where they can watch the election results, and Anne-Marie Schubert standing right over to my right in the see the beige leather jacket, I would call it, just greeting some of her supporters. Now, I did get a chance to speak with her briefly before we went out live to you. We talked a little bit about what she would say if she won tonight, what she would say if she didn't win tonight. She is feeling pretty confident, though, as are many of her supporters. They say they're expecting to be celebrating maybe up until 10 or 11 p.m. And as you mentioned, two national headlines just coming out of Sacramento, first with what happened with Stephon Clark, and then with what happened with the East Area rapist case. I did ask her, because a lot of critics have been asking or feeling like the timing was a little coincidental with a lot of her critics, of course, of the Stephon Clark shooting, and then with some of her campaign ads about what she was doing with the East Area rapist case. And she said, of course, that is not related. The timing is just coincidental, and that her priority has always been public safety. Now, Madison, Liz, I don't know if you can tell, but it is very loud here behind me.
Can you hear
Again,
us?
people seem pretty confident that they're going to get the results Barely. I can barely hear myself. It is. She's laughing because she agrees, but it is windy.
I'm wondering.
She said we almost blew away. Yeah, it is.
Wait, Frances, if you hear me, I'm wondering.
Just speak really loudly.
Okay, I hope everyone's like, I'm yelling. Why is this a secret watch party? Do you know if there's any concerns of protests from people? Is that why?
She didn't address that directly. They never specifically said why. They just said they invited only about 150 to 200 people, and that they wanted it to be a private occasion with a lot of their supporters. I did look for some familiar faces so far. I've only seen Councilmember Angelique Ashby here so far.
Got it. All right. Well, thank you, Frances. We might check in with you later. I know we'll see you on LNT tonight. Frances is been covering the Stephon Clark shooting since the beginning, and so she's going to be looking into kind of how this race, how policing, kind of what next after this race tonight, and how policing plays a role. And I know she also talked to members of Stephon Clark's family tonight. They've been really heavily campaigning and pushing Noah Phillips, who is running against Schubert. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there.
Yeah. And we also want to point out, too, we have Ananda Rochita, who is live for us at the Democratic Watch Party. So we do have both watch parties being covered tonight as well, just to make sure that we, include every party and every candidate, and we just want to make sure we don't miss anything, too. So we'll get to Ananda at some point later in the show as well. But we're going to now turn to this surge of women in politics.
Yes.
And we've seen in that, maybe the ballot you've looked at, it's been overwhelming for some because the amount of names on there, but there's also a lot of women too. So we wanted to point that out.
I'm wondering, is that something like that you guys have seen? Like, I know I saw 70 women are on the ballot in the primary across the state, and across the country, record number of women are running. In terms of what you guys do, has that been something that you've seen, more women involvement this election?
Yeah, I think certainly in my life, there's not been that much. And the League of Women Voters, given its name, encourages civic engagement at all levels, whether it's just plain voting, like what I do, or running for office, or being on a commission, a planning commission, or something like that. So we want to encourage all people, not just women, all people, to get involved in that way. If they have something to offer their communities, we want them to do it.
I know one of the races, full disclosure, someone I went to high school with, Sarah Jacobs, she's running in the Darrell Issa district down in San Diego, which is one of the most hotly contested races. There's so many Democrats in that race. Democrats are scared that maybe Democrat won't even get in the top two because they're going to split the vote so much. But she has been profiled in like Cosmo and all these things because if she wins, she'll be the youngest serving House member. And so she's kind of been the emblematic of like the young woman going out and running for office. But I think Lilia Luciano, our colleague, she did a really great in-depth piece about these organizations that are helping women run for office and get out the vote. So I think we have that if we want to play it.
I think it's super important for our representatives to represent the communities that they are supposed to be representing.
Gloria Partida is running for City Council in Davis.
About a year ago, I had people who asked if I would consider running for office, and never in my wildest dreams.
We caught up with her during an Ignite event at UC Davis. Ignite is a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization that trains young women on civic engagement and prepares them to run for office.
I think it's just about saying, I'm going to run.
It's a step that a record number of women are taking across the country. There are almost 400 women running in the House and over 50 for governor, including 3 women of color, setting a new precedence in places like Alabama and Georgia. 94% of black women voted for Hillary Clinton, as did 69% of Hispanic women and 83% of Asian women. Now it's not just about the vote, but about decision-making on the issues that affect half of the population.
And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything. Grab them by the you can do anything.
You could see there was blood coming out of her eyes. Blood coming out of her wherever.
You've called women you don't like fat pigs, dogs, slobs, and disgusting animals. Your Twitter account...
Only Rosie O'Donnell.
After the last national election and the rhetoric that came up at that time, and then very recently the Me Too movement has really moved women to kind of stand up and say, this is not okay, and unless our voices are there, these are the things that we can continue to expect.
I see a lot that the male candidates are trying to use the women's issue to their favor to get votes. And that's something that kind of upsets me.
Their role in this greater movement is to listen to understand, and not necessarily listen to respond all the time, but to listen to understand and give us the space to go ahead and step up if we want to.
So what had been stopping women from running?
Having the time, really. Oftentimes women are caregivers.
Obviously there's something in society that's kind of perpetuating that false belief that women need to be asked, or women need to be 10 times more qualified, or get another degree on top of degrees to pursue something like elected office, when that's simply not true.
For women, if you want to be in a position of power, what people expect leaders to be like is like assertive and powerful. But women, if they do that, then they get labeled as bossy, or the people don't like to take orders from them.
Confidence also plays a significant role in having women in positions of power, leadership, or in politics. I wrote a book a few years ago that talks about the confidence gap. The Confidence Code is the name of the book. And through the research, I learned that men will initiate salary negotiations 4 times more than women do. When we do that, we ask for 30% less than men do. We also doubt our abilities and our performance. And when it comes to asking for opportunities, asking for a promotion, for instance, men will take an opportunity when they feel that they're 60% prepared for it, whereas women feel that we have to be 100% prepared to ask for it.
It can be very daunting when you start to think about yourself, when you kind of put yourself in that equation, but when I think you do it from a perspective of I am representing and this is my duty.
Recognizing that we have a voice and that we should be at the forefront of those issues. It takes time, but it's doable.
So I think one of the big things that we'll be watching out throughout the night is, even though there's a record number of women running, will a record number of women actually win? So we will be watching for that throughout the night. But ding, 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 pretend there's a bell. We have some early projections, or some early results just coming in, but only 2% reporting here. So kind of take this with a little grain of salt, if you will. But right now we're seeing for governor, Gavin Newsom is in the lead with 37%. John Cox, 25% in that number 2 spot right now. Then Travis Allen, also a Republican, the only other Republican in the race. And then 4th is Antonio Villaraigosa. Again, that's just 2% reporting. And then in our Senate race, we have some early results in right now, 2% reporting. Dianne Feinstein leading with 43%. No surprise there. James Bradley is in the number 2 spot with 10%. He is a Republican in the race. And then Kevin DeLeon at 9% in that number 3 spot. So we will keep you posted on that throughout the night. But that's what we got for now. And again, you'll see that ticker at the bottom of your screen. You can see some of the results there too. All right, I think we're going over to Madison.
All right, Liz, thank you so much. So I'm over here with Anthony Cave right now. He's one of our reporters who's been diving into these local measures in Davis. There's 2 that we really want to highlight that are interesting for people living in Davis. One that you were just kind of saying that may trump the other in terms of importance, or maybe what people are talking most about, is adding some more student housing to UC Davis. Maybe people living nearby there, if you want to talk about just maybe the 2 different sides of that.
Yeah, so Measure J, it's a lot of housing. It's 2,200 beds, so maximum was 750 units. So this is a huge scale project. And the thing with Davis is that this measure came before voters in 2016, and they rejected it because it involved mixed use. So there were concerns over traffic and whatnot. So now this is strictly just for student housing, and voters have to approve it because it's a land use designation. So they have to. It's not something the city council can just approve. And we're also, Davis voters are also looking at Measure I, which is a $99 new tax to help pay for bike path and road infrastructure. Now, opponents say that, oh, well, we already passed this gas tax law. Why are we voting on a new tax? While supporters are saying that the city, they're already putting forth so much money for road repairs and whatnot that we need this additional $99 tax. And that's annually, so it's every year.
Gotcha. When you were out in Davis talking to people and whatnot, did it seem like many people knew about these already and were willing to vote and already had an opinion? I think they were pretty informed. I mean, we think of Davis as a bike-friendly, more bikes than pedestrians. So no, I think they were pretty informed, and we're already seeing some of the results come in. Okay. Only 9%, but it's still pretty split. 54-45 for the $99 tax, and then 60-40 for the Nishi housing project is what it's called. So
we'll update you throughout the day on that. So.
Yeah, definitely. We'll check back in with you.
Cool.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Anthony. And we're going to head back over to the table to join Liz and Carol over here to talk about, the next. Are we getting more results in, or can we move on to the propositions?
Oh, yes. Are we getting any results in the district attorney race? Not yet. All right, we'll have something shortly on that. But I think right now we want to talk about some of the propositions across the state.
Yeah,
so something Carol can weigh in on.
Absolutely. So we have Proposition 68 and 69. 69 is in relation to a bill that we saw last year, actually. So those are kind of 2 and 2 together, whereas 68 stands alone. Kevin De Leon out of LA actually wrote this one. So any one of those propositions for you, Carol, that you think is worth maybe more people are talking about, or more people have called you all about?
Actually, it has been very quiet in terms of the ballot measures. I think that people opened their ballots or their sample ballots and were surprised to see that they are on. We're not seeing a lot of TV ads about them. In fact, almost none that I can see. It's just been very quiet. Now, in the spring, the ballot measures are actually put on the ballot by the state legislature.
Yep.
And so you don't have that signature gathering process, and that seems to attract a lot of attention, and there's not a lot of money being spent because these are generated from within the legislature. So it's not surprising that you don't hear a whole lot about it. It will be interesting to see what people do.
Gotcha.
It will be.
All right. Well, we're going to, I think we just got a little bit of some results coming in. If maybe my producer can just relay that one more time. Yeah? Okay, so 83% so far are voting yes for Prop 69. So that we just got that in, and that's the latest that we have as of right now. So, of course, we'll continue to update you all. But in terms of Proposition 69, it might be worth to explain what that is for some people who are curious. Obviously, some results already showing what people think, but let's just maybe play that really quick. I went out and did an explainer so people really will know what that means.
When you go to fill up at the gas station, you may have noticed a bump in the price at the pump. Well, that's because the gas tax increased 12 cents, bringing it up to 41.7 cents a gallon. Well, you're probably saying that's a lot of money, and it is. The tax is estimated to bring in more than $50 billion in 10 years to fix the roads, highways, and transportation projects in our state. On your ballot this year, there's a proposition directly related to this, and that's worth noting. It's called Proposition 69. A yes vote means the legislature would be required to continue to spend money collected from gas taxes and vehicle fees on transportation expenses alone. That means money collected from you at the pump will go directly towards improving roads or transit. A no vote would mean legislature could change the current law and allow it to spend money collected from the gas tax on items other than transportation.
All right, so again, that is in relation to Senate Bill 1, which was on the ballot last year, and that, about the gas tax and whatnot. We're also going to be talking about Proposition 68. Right now, we actually have some early results, and we want to show you that 52% of people are saying they are voting no on Proposition 68, whereas 48% are saying yes. Now, Proposition 68 would allocate a lot of money in bonds, about $40 billion in bonds to protect the $4 billion, excuse me, I'm sorry, all these numbers get me confused sometimes, but we're on Facebook Live, so we're good. Yeah. So $4 billion, excuse me, $40 billion would be quite a lot, for bonds for water and park projects. Now this is across the state, and there's a lot of different facets that come with that, so to explain that, we're going to play this story for you as well.
Here's a little fact about Sacramento you may not know. There are 226 parks and parkways that total nearly 3,200 acres of land in the city. And if you're like me and you enjoy your parks, you may want to pay attention to Prop 68 this year. It carries a $4.1 billion bond measure to build and maintain parks, shore up levees in the Delta, secure safe drinking water for Central Valley communities, and much more. One of the biggest chunks of money from the $4.1 billion is $725 million that would be used to create and expand safe neighborhood parks in park-poor neighborhoods. This prop was written by State Senator Kevin De Leon, a Democrat from LA. Last year, the legislature approved Prop 68 for the primary election after Governor Jerry Brown signed his signature.
Advanced to November. Oh, hey guys. We were just seeing this tweet from the Associated Press. They are reporting that Dianne Feinstein, Democratic senator, will advance to the November election. No surprise there. I know you asked, though, Carol, you said with what percent precincts in right now.
Yeah.
It seems really early. Why do you say that?
If it's under 10%, I don't know what the margins for error are, but it just seems to me that means 90% of the ballots haven't been counted yet. So it just seems really premature to do that. But
I guess
I'm not the scientist. So
for someone who's been in the Senate for 25 years, she's 84 years old. If she serves
Amazing.
this next term, she'll be 90 when she finishes her term. It's remarkable. So I guess they feel confident that she's going to be that number one. So the AP's reporting that, but we kind of knew she'd probably get that spot right now. It's really that race for number two. We also then want to move on to the McClintock race, which is the district up, District 4 up kind of in Placerville, Auburn area. That race is really fascinating. It's one of the sort of more swing districts, you could say, although really it is leaning Republican. Incumbent McClintock, the Republican, we have some results. I just wrote them down. He is in the lead right now with 51% of the vote. Jessica Morse, the Democrat, has 19% of the vote. She's in that number two spot right now. And Regina Bateson is in third with 14%. And this, to me, this is a little wonky, but you know, this race, when I was researching and looking into this race and reporting on it, it kind of has reminiscent a little bit of the Bernie-Hillary race, where it's very divided in the Democratic Party, and a lot of the grassroots activists in Placerville and in those areas and in District 4 are behind Regina Bateson, but sort of the establishment Democratic Party is behind Jessica Morse. She got the endorsement from the California Democratic Party, and Regina Bateson actually said that she would drop out if she didn't get that endorsement, but she didn't drop out because she had so much grassroots momentum. And so it's sort of one of those things where if Jessica Morse moves forward in the number two spot there, Democrats really are going to have to like suck it up and rally around her, even though a lot of them did want Regina Bateson. So it's sort of it was just reminiscent of the divisions that are still among the Democratic Party and how that might hurt them. In the midterm.
And it looks like we do have results from District 10 as well, which is another one many Democrats have been looking at to take that number two spot and actually to take it over, but it looks like Denham's holding on to it, 38% voting for Denham right now. And then Harder is right behind him in the number two spot, 15%.
Yeah, and this race, even more so than the McClintock race, is one that's really targeted by Democrats right now. There's 7 races in California that voted for Hillary Clinton in 2016, but that also in 2016 voted for a Republican in Congress. So Democrats are saying, oh, we can target those and maybe flip that district blue. This is one of them, District 10. It will be hard to do, but I know that Democrats are really going to try. Josh Harder is interesting. He's really young. He's in his 30s. He's a venture capitalist, raised a ton of money. He apparently helped found Blue Apron. So kind of a young guy coming in there, and we'll see what happens with that race. It'll be interesting.
And again, it looks like 31% of precincts are voting for that. So we're not quite, to that 50% mark, but that's a lot more than we were originally reporting with the 2% and 3% we were saying too.
Right, exactly. So Carol, how are votes being counted right now? Like, what's the process for these votes to get counted?
The process for the ballots that were cast today, they are taken from the vote centers or the polling places, whatever county you're in, by truck to the county registrar's office. They are taken into this large room where the counting equipment is, and they process, these are the ballots cast, not through the absentee process or the vote by mail process, but just cast through the machine. So those will be counted within each county office, because each county really runs its own election. And then the results of that get sent to the Secretary of State's office. So it's kind of, and the Secretary of State overall, amalgamates or the cumulative total.
So just to go back even a little bit, I mentioned briefly at the top of our hour show here that there was some reports out in Southern California that several people, like a few 100,000 or something, I now don't have the exact number, weren't on the ballot in LA County. Now, Antonio Villaraigosa down there is saying he wants the polls to stay open later. I think it was a printing problem, like their names weren't printed.
Oh, they weren't on the ballot. They were not on the voter rolls.
Yeah, they showed up to vote and their
right.
name wasn't there.
Yeah, I think, and in any circumstance, if there is a line at the polling place at 8 o'clock, all those people in the line get to vote. They do not just shut the doors and say, go home. So I assume that's what's going to be happening in this situation. And they may be there a while. I don't really know the circumstances. But if you're in line and it's 8 o'clock, you're going to get to vote.
Got it.
That's good for the people that are stuck in limbo right now, wondering what's going to happen with their vote. That's important for sure. We do want to revisit the governor's race because we're hearing that Newsom and Cox are actually very close. 31% for Newsom and 29% for John Cox. John Cox was endorsed by Trump. Gavin Newsom has been projected in all these different polls saying that he will be the #1 spot, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm playing political analyst here myself, but I think this is, again, California has to be careful because it's always this blue state, but we see it from reporting in this area there, and we've seen it across the state right now with all these counties that are pushing back against sanctuary state and are voting to stand with the Trump administration and not our Attorney General Javier Becerra. There's kind of this, as much as you nationally, maybe there's this blue wave nationally against the Trump administration, I kind of think locally in California we have a red wave, like a backlash against Jerry Brown, and we might be seeing that tonight in these results, because it's true. We're all saying, oh, Gavin Newsom will be the lead. No, for sure, but look at that. That's really tight. That's really interesting. So we'll stay on that. There's my pontification for the night.
We are going to now turn to Ananda Rochita, who we told you was standing by live for us tonight. I'm not exactly sure where Ananda is at the moment, but she is covering the Democratic side of the races tonight. So Ananda, just walk us through where you are, who's there, what you're seeing as well.
Yeah, so we're at the Democratic headquarters right now, and it's getting pretty crowded. A lot of people are starting to come here after work, but we're kind of on the second floor, so you can kind of see the party. It stretches outside there. Just to talk to you a little bit about who's here. We already saw Noah Phillips, who's running for DA, and he said he's excited. I asked him what's next from whatever happens with the results. He says whatever the outcome, he won't stop fighting for reform. I also caught up with Milo Finch, who is running for sheriff. He says it's been a long 3 months, but he's also excited. He's here with his wife. He says his sons can't make it to the party since they're both working as deputies. But, it's still early. People are starting to eat out here, but a lot of them are really optimistic, and they're kind of just waiting for the results. It's estimated about 300 people will be out here from where I'm standing all the way to the back to the outdoor patio. Liz and Madison?
All right, Ananda, thank you so much. We do appreciate you being out there and obviously covering, because we're still really waiting to hear what those results are at the moment for DA race and as well as the sheriff.
And we're going to head over to Anthony in just a second, but I actually want to, as I was thinking during that about the governor race, another thing with why maybe we're seeing John Cox so high too is that, again, the Democratic Party in this race is really split. There's so many Democratic candidates that a lot of Democrats don't really know who to vote for. And you guys were saying that you got a lot of calls from people today being like, or throughout the past week, kind of confused. There's so many people on the ballot.
People are saying, where do you start and where do you find the information? And 27 people, I couldn't begin to choose from that.
Right.
And I think people are trying to look and consider at each candidate, and so I think that's good and that's healthy. So it's a lot, though. And I can see why people are confused. But I mean, there are places to go to get information about people, and hopefully that will alleviate some of the stress, and people will feel comfortable making a choice.
Right, absolutely. And again, too, as you're walking over to Anthony, just the fact that there's only 3% is what I'm seeing on the screen of precincts that are actually reporting this. So while it's a very tight race, 31% for Newsom, 29% for Cox, that could very well flip. It could change. We'll just have to continue to watch this closely. So the governor's race, I know a lot of you watching want to know who's going to win this, so we'll continue to bring that up throughout the show. But we're going to send things over to Liz and Anthony right now.
All right, we're over here. Hey, Anthony.
Hey.
So one of the things we want to talk about is the Bay Bridge tolls. So this is something that really affects all of us in Northern California. I'm someone who drives back and forth to the Bay Area all the time, as many people do. A lot of people commute. Right now on the ballot is potential increase in the tolls across the Bay Bridge by $3 by 2025. Can you walk us through what this means?
Yeah, so it's sort of staggered, and the big thing for folks here in Sacramento, it's going to be including the San Francisco-Oakland Bay Bridge if it passes. So right now during weekday hours, it's $6. So we're potentially going to see a $1 increase every 3 years until 2025. So we'll go up $1 next year, $1 in 2022, and then $1 in 2025. So you could potentially be paying $9 during rush hour to cross the San Francisco-Oakland Bay Bridge. So that's your, your Bay Area trips with friends. That's your weekday commute. That's everything.
I know that's a steep price. I think everybody would agree with that. So what are kind of proponents of this saying? What would this money go towards?
So they say it's going to clear up congestion, and they want to look at expanding BART into San Jose and Silicon Valley. So that's another big. BART. We've kind of seen some of the traffic issues there. So that's some of the proposals.
So because basically it's going to be so expensive, it will help with congestion because people won't go.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right, but of course people are already getting pushed out of the Bay Area because it's so expensive. But would some of that money go towards helping the bridge and toll roads and things like that?
And they hope it's a deterrent, obviously, to rely on public transportation more. So.
Got it. Do you have any thoughts on which way it's going to go?
It's pretty mixed. I've kind of seen polls going both ways, but it's ultimately up to the Bay Area voters. So it's you have Alameda County, Contra Costa County voting on it now. So we'll see.
Got it. Well, actually, thanks, Anthony. Thank you. We'll be back soon. Carol, I'm wondering, I don't know if this is something actually you can weigh in on, but we mentioned polls. Is polls something you rely on in California? Do you know how accurate polls are, would you say?
Oh, that is a political scientist.
Okay.
And I know there's a margin of error. And we know that people sometimes tell pollsters things that aren't exactly accurate. And it depends on if the poll is conducted face-to-face as opposed to over the phone. There are lots of variables. So that's why they have this margin of error. So we'll see.
We saw in 2016 the polls didn't work out so well, right? Those didn't show the best. So what do we want to talk about right now? I'm trying to think.
Youth voters. Yeah. Yep. So, again, this is a constant issue. I think many areas see every single year is people turn 18, they don't go out and vote. So there's been a lot of push, especially recently, because of some things happening with schools in terms of school shootings. And we've seen a lot of, proponents who unfortunately were victims of school shootings have been very out there in talking to people in youth to get them to vote. Not specifically because of that exact issue, but just the fact that they do have a voice. You can legally vote. You should go exercise your right. And so we, wanted to look more into that in terms of how this recent school violence we've seen across our country has spurred many youth in our communities here in Sacramento, but also across the country to go vote. So Michael Anthony Adams went and spoke with several people who are on the younger spectrum of the voters for this piece.
It's no secret, youth voting numbers in America have always been low. No matter how many Get Out the Vote campaigns advertising agencies dream up, how many Vote or Die t-shirts P. Diddy sells, or Rock the Vote commercials Madonna fronts, nothing has changed the fact that 18 to 24-year-olds just don't seem to give a damn about making it to the polls. Despite historically low turnout, registration numbers released in April show that more than 100,000 California teenagers are now pre-registered to vote, an uptick Secretary of State Alex Padilla attributes to the mass shooting at a Parkland, Florida high school and the ongoing nationwide protests over gun violence. Pre-registration in California, which allows 16 and 17-year-olds to register to vote before they're eligible to cast their ballot, is one of only 14 such programs in the country. Some of these students signing up won't even be old enough to vote in the upcoming primary, yet people like Kaleo Mark and Emma Talley are working tirelessly to make sure their peers are registered.
Neither of you will be able to vote in the primaries. Why so much energy, spent trying to get your fellow students to vote?
I think it's important for us to get a running start. Not, oh, I'm 18, now I should get involved. I think it should be, I'm a teenager, I'm 13, 14, 15. I should start getting familiar with the issues so that when I do turn 18, I can make educated decisions.
As young people, we're really involved in social media, and I think a huge chunk of social media has become really politically involved. So I think you have a lot more younger kids getting involved in politics a lot earlier than they have in the past.
For Ebony Eckfer, a senior at Sacramento High School, the June primary will be the first election she's eligible to vote in.
Why do you think kids your age are starting to really take notice of what role politics play in their lives?
So it's broadcasted more. So when I say broadcast, I don't mean like on the news, because young people, we don't watch the news, we watch social media. So anything that cause controversy, it pops up on social media. And then a lot of things that cause controversy are things that happen in politics or that have to do with politicians. So if it's on our phones and it's on one of our apps, we're going to see it. Even if I'm not interested in politics, politics is interested in you. So I had to vote. Like it's like if I don't vote, then other people are making the decision for me.
I would like to say that I think that kids are getting involved and that political discourse is getting involved. I think it has to do a lot with school shootings. I think people say, we are on a campus right now and there are students across the nation that fear for their lives, and we do too.
It was really easy for us as teenagers to say like, oh, you know, I don't pay taxes. That doesn't affect me. I don't have to worry about that. I don't have to vote on taxes. I don't pay taxes. But like gun control, that directly affects us. People our age are dying in schools every day. And it's really scary for a lot of people. So I think a lot of young people, that's been a big push to get out there and vote.
If you had the power to really sign just a piece of paper and be like, yes, I want this to happen, and it really happens, like, that's a superpower. That's really a superpower if you think about it. Like, that's cool.
You know, and Carol, just to wrap up about this youth vote, I think you guys were, I know you were talking, are you seeing a lot more youth engagement, or what are you guys seeing this year?
One of the things that we at the League of Women Voters does pretty consistently up and down the state is try to get into high schools and community colleges and try to get people to register to vote. Now, we can't make them vote once they've registered, but we are definitely seeing interest in that. We are seeing students urging other students to do it. We are seeing administrations, you know, being a lot more open to having us come in and talk about how easy it is to register and how important it is to register to vote, because it is the first step. Now, whether it'll translate to a primary like this, when you're not dealing with national issues very much, that's something else, because I think the youth are very focused on the national things that are current right now, and we're not seeing that sort of controversy in the state of California. So we will see, and some people of all age groups say, I only vote in the important election. and to them, that means the November election.
Yes. Right, but people forget that what happens locally impacts you the most.
Exactly.
And I also saw something interesting that just this year now, Republican registration within California is now the third party within California. It's Democrats, then I think it's either independent or no party, and then third is Republican, which is interesting for the Republican Party here in California. All right, we got some more results though. Take away, Madison.
All right, so we are now starting to hear about the DA's race and the sheriff's race in our county. So it looks like Anne Marie Schubert is coming in at 65% voting for her, whereas 34% are going for Noah Phillips. We do not have the total number of how many ballots that is, how many votes that is yet, so we're working to get that for you all so you can have some perspective. But 65 so far for Schubert. And now when it comes to the sheriff's office, it looks like our current sheriff, Jones, is at 54%, excuse me, and then Cox is 20%. And who was the third person?
Milo Fitch, 19%. And these, again, are just early results, but you think when we saw 15% of the vote we're being told is in right now, but when you saw that Donna Cox in that second spot, it makes you wonder, you know, we're seeing Milo Fitch everywhere. He was sort of the believed to be kind of main candidate against Sheriff Jones, but Donna Cox is a woman, and you do wonder, there's probably a lot of women out there who just this time are voting for those women. You know, it's sort of that year of the women, and women want to support women. So it'll be interesting if that's, and she's there kind of to like reset the moral compass with some of the sexual harassment cases that have happened in the sheriff's department. All right, let's circle back to the governor's race. We did mention before that President Trump has endorsed John Cox, which did give him a really big boost. And look at those early results right now. 3% of the precincts reporting. Gavin Newsom, John Cox tied for 30%. Travis Allen trailing at 14%, number 3 spot. That's pretty interesting. I mean, Gavin Newsom wanted John Cox to run. It was Gavin Newsom wants John Cox to be his opponent. Let's be real. He really does. He was already airing attack ads against him. He thinks it will be easier to win against a Republican in November than it will be to win against another Democrat. But seeing, you know, that much of a vote for John Cox, you know, he should be a little worried, I'd say. I think no one should take anything for granted, and we learned that in 2016 for sure. So it'll be interesting kind of see what happens there. But again, it's only 3% precinct reporting, so we'll have to figure that out.
Absolutely. And then talking about John Cox, we also want to share with everyone watching that President Trump did endorse him just recently. We want to show some of his tweets that you can, you know, see in terms of Cox. He said, in high tax, high crime California, be sure to get out and vote for Republican John Cox for governor. He will make a big difference. And he also said California has a rare opportunity to turn things around and solve its high crime, high tax problems, along with so many others. On June 5th, vote for GOP gubernatorial candidate John Cox, a really good and highly competent man. He'll make California great again. And there's a third tweet. Lots of support from Trump for Cox. California finally deserves a great governor, one who understands borders, crimes, and lowering taxes. John Cox is the man. He will be the best governor you've ever had. I fully endorse John Cox for governor and look forward to working with him to make California great again. And John Cox also was, very reciprocated in terms of these tweets, saying, thank goodness for the endorsement from our president. That's obviously going to bring a boost to the amount of people that go vote for our governor.
Exactly. And I think like I said, we think of California as a very blue state, but there's a lot of people right now that are ready for a more conservative movement here in California, for sure.
Yeah, and then we also have a couple, in terms of the race for governor, here's who's coming in the fourth, fifth, and sixth place, Antonio excuse me, my goodness, I cannot talk right now. He's the former mayor, former mayor from Los Angeles, coming in with 11%, and then Jong Chung and Delane Easton. So,
Democrats are split. Democrats, so many Democrats, it's great for them to have a lot of people, to choose between, but at the same time, they're kind of shooting themselves in the foot because Democrats don't know who to vote for and they're splitting their votes, and that's going to end up hurting them, I think, in the long run. But it will be interesting to see if it is that race between John Cox and Gavin Newsom. I'm trying to see if we have any other results between lieutenant governor or attorney general. Okay, we're working on some more on the Senate race. We'll have some more results for you in just a second. But I'm wondering, Carol, as we put these early results in, do you take these with a grain of salt, or do you kind of,
Always.
Yeah.
Always. It depends on which precincts are reporting. Rural counties, sometimes they have fewer voters, so they can count their votes more quickly.
Right.
Large cities have a lot more voters, and it takes a lot more time to do that. Where are the precincts closing? Northern California, Southern California, Bay Area, San Diego. There's a lot of variation there. So
right. Like if it's all the Central Valley and Northern California precincts in, and maybe that's why we're seeing a Republican in the lead, right?
It might be.
Or if
Who
it's
knows?
all the San Francisco in right now, we may be seeing a Democrat. Right. That makes sense.
It's a huge state. There are a lot of voters out there.
It is a huge state. We're like a country.
And we just had the results. If we could maybe go back to those in terms of the race for the Senate spot. We have Feinstein, who at the last check I think was leading and had a check mark by her name. So
Sherry put out a thank you video online. She's on it.
So you're looking at those results right now. Dianne Feinstein at 40%. These are again just 3% of the precincts who are reporting these. So like Carol just said, take them with a grain of salt. But important to note that it's a clear jump, 40 to 11%, with James Bradley right behind her.
I know Republicans will be happy because I think that they were pretty worried about this race and worried that they would be the ones that got shut out of this primary and that Kevin DeLeon would become the second and then they wouldn't have a chance. So looks like they'll have a chance. And now we have lieutenant governor. In the lead right now at 23% of the vote is Eleni Kounalakis. She's a Democrat. And second in the lead is 19% Cole Harris. Followed by Ed Hernandez with 19% a Democrat, and then David Fennell at 10%. So I know Eleni has been campaigning like crazy. There's been a lot of money put into this race as well. I see her ads everywhere. And then here we have State Attorney General, some results coming in with just 4% precincts reporting now. We're seeing current Attorney General, the incumbent Javier Becerra with 40% leading, followed by Stephen Bailey, the Republican, with 30%, Eric Early 18%, and then Dave Jones 13%. So it kind of is looking like Javier Becerra will be moving on.
Absolutely. And again, like Carol was just saying, there's going to be a long process in terms of finalizing these and making sure that they are 100% accurate and all counted. How long does that process look in terms of these races, not the local ones, but the state ones?
The large races?
Yes.
No matter whether it's a local race or a statewide race, it goes through the same process. Particularly with vote by mail ballots, there's a slower process because they do look at the barcode, which identifies the ballot and makes sure that the ballot is attached to the right person, that the signature is right, and all that process is done, with eyeballs. And so that can be a slow process depending on how many vote-by-mail ballots come in. Now, some of them have probably already been counted. The ones that have been turned in a while ago, there's no reason not to count them. But those that got dropped today or are stuck in the mail today and won't don't have to be in the registrar's office until Friday. That kind of prolongs the whole process. But each county has to certify their own results, double check. I think in some cases they pull manual ballots and they still count them manually, and then they have to certify it and send those results officially to the Secretary of State's office.
Gotcha. How likely is it you think that the entire state will adopt these new voting procedures that we've seen in Sacramento County?
They're supposed to. What the Voters' Choice Act is supposed to be applicable to the entire state in 2020. This is a pilot project at this point. 14 counties were eligible to participate in it, and 5 of them actually chose to do so. And so this is kind of a shakedown cruise. And they want to see what works, they want to see what doesn't work. There are all sorts of rules about where they place the drop-off boxes and where they place the vote centers, and I mean there's a lot there. So this is a way of looking at it and seeing how it works before it goes statewide. Sacramento County, by the way, is the largest county in terms of number of voters in the pilot project.
Interesting.
Wow. Cool. Interesting. Yeah. I think it's been a smooth process for most people that I've talked to out on stories in terms of getting their ballots in and what they've dealt with, and hasn't been too confusing, but of course there's always questions.
Right, but I think because it arrives in the mail for you, you're like, oh, here it is. Got it.
If you read the directions, it tells you what to do.
Right, exactly.
But you have 3 options. You can mail it.
We're going to take a moment and talk about District 10 again. That's down in the Modesto, Turlock, Manteca area. Pretty hotly contested race right now. Jeff Denham, the incumbent, a Republican, is in the lead right now with 38% of the vote, followed by Josh Harder, 15%. That's what it was a little bit ago when we checked in, but those numbers just keep going up. So it will be, it looks like, if it goes this way, a race between a Republican, the incumbent, and a Democrat, and you got to bet that the entire Democratic Party national will be putting lots of money into that Democratic race, hoping to flip that district blue, because again, that district voted for Hillary Clinton in 2016, and here we are with District 4. So
that's a bigger gap, 51% to 19%.
Yeah, Tom McClintock's still in the lead there. Jessica Moore's 19%. You're right, that's 51% of the voters voted for Tom McClintock. That one, if you look at some of the projections by political analysts, was less likely to flip blue than even the Jeff Denham race in District 10. So this one is looking like they're pretty heavily going to go with Tom McClintock, but I know a lot of activists have been out going for Regina Bateson and Jessica Morse, so they'll be pretty disappointed, but you can see how it's going there.
And about 20% of precincts?
Yeah, 20% of the precincts reported, and there was some reports that there was some issues with some ballots in Amador County, but I think everyone ultimately will be able to vote. So when should we get numbers about turnout? I mean, something that I'm really fascinated with looking at, Carol, is understanding with this so-called momentum of blue activism, and even with Republicans in California that want to be a little bit more conservative, and these new efforts in Sacramento County. When should we get a sense of whether or not turnout was more than normal?
Hopefully later tonight, when more of the precincts are being counted. I think they'll be able to tell. The projection is 32% in Sacramento County, but I think statewide the last governor's primary was 2014, and it was Governor Brown running for re-election, and there was not a lot of competition for that race, and so the rate fell down to 25%, I believe. But there's competition now. There's 27 candidates, so so we'll see what it turns out now. But the projections, and I think historically, it's been around 30 to 33, 34% across a lot of years.
Are you expecting record highs or more just moderate?
Well, from what I was reading, and I'm just reading what pundits say, and they're expecting average. Because like I said, there's the national issues are the things that are. That's what people are talking about. That's what you see on social media, and you look at the ballot, and you don't, other than the senator, U.S. senator, and congressional races, you don't see the issues that people are interested in.
Right. Yeah. I know the whole country, though, tonight is watching the California primary because it does have national implications, especially in terms of those House races. So we have just a few minutes left of our show. We're only going till 9 tonight. So you want to check back in with the governor race. Gavin Newsom pulling a little bit more ahead now, 32%. This is with 4% precincts reporting now, so he's at 32%. John Cox, 29%. You can see there, and I think we have some of the other races. You see Sarah down at the bottom of there, 43% reporting. So We're getting some results in. They're trickling in, but like you said, you take them with a grain of salt at this point because a lot of them are still pretty early reporting. I think the only one that we have for sure right now who's already come out and cheered is Dianne Feinstein.
Yes. She already had a video ready to go.
Ready to go. I know. 90 years old, still chugging away in the Senate. I mean, she will be if she wins and makes it through this next term. So, any final words on kind of voting and what you expect and how things went?
Hopefully everything went well, except maybe if you're in Los Angeles and your name didn't appear on the voter roll. But there are remedies for that, and one thing they can do, and I should have mentioned earlier, is they can fill out a provisional ballot. Even if their name is not on the registry, it's as if you went to the wrong polling place. You can go ahead and vote. They put it in a special envelope, and then they look at it later to see if you voted somewhere else. And so that's another option.
Gotcha.
And I'm sure a lot of people who were there this morning, that's probably what they were told to do.
Just want to quickly, before the last few minutes, show you we had Alex Padilla up there. If we could go back just for a second, we had Alex Padilla for Secretary of State in the lead. And here we go, State Attorney General Javier Becerra leading with 43%, followed by Stephen Bailey, a Republican, 27%. So we will be reporting on this all through the night. Check us out on social media. I'm ABC Liz.
Yep, I'm Madison Wade. TV, I think.
Yeah, we'll be on Twitter, we will be on Facebook, and we will be here at 11 p.m. on ABC 10, Late News Tonight. We've got all the results coming up tonight.
Thank you so much for watching, and thank you so much for joining us to offer some expertise. And if you have any more questions, concerns, or anything you want to know, just feel free to comment. We'll get to you all as well watching. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Good night.